Hello everyone, back to today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's second video. Day 10 is going to take us around the 16th of November. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with extended GFS ensembles. And I'll get CFSB2 for December at the end of the video. GMA Friday's just been released. That's a month ahead look ahead, and it's taking us to the beginning of December. So have a look at that. See what the GMA and CFS V2 models are forecasting. We've got the ECM 42 day look ahead. 6 weeks look ahead coming up for you between 5 and 6 o'clock tonight. I'm going to get us more or less to Christmas. Can you believe it? And there'll be live streaming after 10 o'clock tonight. So a very, very busy day today. I better crack on. Right, so we're going to start off in the Tropical Atlantic. This is the forecast for Tropical Storm slash former Hurricane Eta. It's tropical depression at the moment, but it's going to power up any time as it moves back out into the Caribbean. It's going to push northwards to Cuba over the weekend and then head up to Florida into the beginning of next week as a tropical storm into the Gulf of Mexico by the middle of next week, again as a tropical storm. No suggestion at the moment this is powering back up to a hurricane, but of course as it runs over the warm water of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, there's always a possibility that this might develop into a hurricane. We'll have to keep a close eye on it once again. Right, GFS upper air temperature precipitation ensembles. Let's go to weeks. The red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're above average at the moment, but it's pretty cold actually. Got an inversion going on right now, which means it's colder on the surface than it is aloft. However, over the weekend, we're going to start to stir up the atmosphere, so that will allow the mild temperatures that we've got aloft to descend, and all areas are going to be getting mild through weekend into next week. Generally mild through most of next week. By the end of next week, possibly returning back close to average. And then we see the upper air temperatures becoming milder again as we move into the second week of November. I think we can see pretty clearly and definitively that that we are in for a mild or a very mild couple of weeks. Precipitation-wise, going to be quite a bit of dry weather, really. Very dry over the next few days. And then as we go through weekend into next week, it gradually gets a little bit more unsettled. I mean, given that it's November, that is a pretty dry ensemble actually, so particularly eastern areas I think are going to be in for a lot of dry weather in the next week, with what rain there is mostly in the west. Temperature anomalies from the 4th to the 14th of November going to be milder than average, not just the UK but through all parts of Europe. Precipitation anomalies from the 6th to the 14th of November are going to be drier than average. This is our latest wind flow map. Looks from earthnorthschool.net, showing that high pressure is in control of the weather. The high pressure is sitting over and to the east of the country, with low pressure and the westerlies up to the north and the west of the country. So high and dry at the moment. This is how the UK Met Office run is looking for Monday. Again, high pressure is to our east, low pressure to our west, drawing up these southerly winds. But there will be some showery rain in the south and in the southwest too. Through the weekend into next week, but the emphasis for eastern areas will be on quite a dry weather, and that's the case through most of next week until around Thursday, Wednesday to Thursday, when we bring a slightly more vigorous area of low pressure in from off the Atlantic, and that might spread some cloud and showery outbreaks of rain in from the west. All the time though, wind is coming from a south-southwest direction, so it is mild. GFS looks like that again. We've got high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west through to the middle of next week. Second half of next week, trough low pressure comes in off the Atlantic, being showery outbreaks of rain. And then back into those drier southerly winds once again. Moving up towards day 10, there's no change in this. We've got high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west. Wind is being drawn up from a mild or a very mild southwesterly wind. You follow the isobars back, you can see that the air is originating somewhere down around the Canary Islands. So this is a long fetch southwesterly. It will be mild or very mild up to day 10. In more extended range, nothing cold happening at all, really. If you want cold weather, get behind the sage long, look away now. It's going to be mild right way up to the end of the GFS run, which gets us to the 22nd of November. Again, high pressure is to the east, low pressure is to the west. We continue to draw up those southerly winds. This is how the GM is looking again. So low pressure to the west, high pressure to the east on Monday. You're going to be hearing that a lot, I think, over coming days in the videos. A bit of a vigorous area of low pressure there, or a more vigorous area of low pressure there on Thursday. We'll bring some showery rain across the country, and then we're back to drier weather as we're moving up towards day 10. Yes, up come those long fetched southerly winds. Going to be very mild with high pressure again to the east, low pressure to the west. It's probably a bit drier with the GM. p.m. So a little bit drier, and with sort of light winds, we may start to fog up. So any route to colder weather with this in the next week to 10 days will be via fog, I would have thought. Otherwise, this is a mild or a very mild air mass. Of course, you can't really rely on fog these days because we don't get anywhere near as much fog as we used to get years ago. And then the ECM looking like this again. The high pressure is to the east, low pressure to the west on Monday. Up come those southerly winds through into middle of next week. A rather more vigorous area of low pressure comes in off the Atlantic, bringing some showery outbreaks of rain before we go back to the high pressure as we move up towards day 10. Again, it's a case of low pressure to the west, high pressure to the east, drawing up the southerly wind. I think the GM and the ECM are a little bit drier than the GFS, a little bit more towards high pressure than the GFS, which is a bit more unsettled. And consequently, the GM and the ECM could be a bit colder at day 10, as we have slightly sort of lighter winds, rather more of a slack flow, which could allow some fog to develop. This is the rainfall forecast based on that ECM run from tometeo.com. So there will be showery rain coming going. It's not going to be completely dry. It is November after all. So there will be some showery rain. And what showery rain there is will be focused on more southern and western areas, I think, early next week. And then maybe more towards the west-northwest later next week. But generally, east areas tending to be driest, and that's how things are as we go up towards day 10, with the rain always mostly to the north and the west of the driest weather in the south and the southeast. These are options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which gets us to the 16th of November. Have 27 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our west-northwest. High pressure is to our south and east. Winds are coming up from a southwesterly direction. A little bit more unsettled with those. Low pressures out to the northwest will be producing some showery outbreaks of rain, but southern and east areas tending to be drier, even with that scenario. Mild though. And then got 24 just here, 24 members of the ECM ensembles that have high pressure to our east, low pressure to the west, and putting the emphasis more on the high pressure actually, so drawing up like those southerly to southeasterly winds, dry and mild or very mild with those 24. But of course, with high pressure in control, there might be some fog. In 2 weeks' time, these options that we've got, this is for the 21st of November. 12 members of the ECM ensembles have high pressure sitting over to the north of the country, bringing in the wind from an easterly direction. That's still going to be quite dry. Might be colder with those. That could be a colder option as winds a little bit more east to northeasterly. 11 just here with high pressure to the south and the east. Low pressure is out to the northwest. That's going to be a drier scenario or dry scenario for the south, a little bit more unsettled for the north. And that will be very mild. 9 with high pressure over the country. That's a slightly colder scenario as we've cut off the southerly, so it's going to be mainly dry and probably frost and fog with that. 9 just here looking much more unsettled. Low pressure to the north of the country, bringing a strong westerly wind. Return of Atlantic driven weather with those. 5 with the ridge to our southwest up to Scandinavia. That could be drawing in a slightly colder easterly. And then 5 just here have high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, and bringing up the wind from a southwesterly direction. So quite a lot of options. Most of them seem to still involve high pressure, but the position of the ridge might change to produce something a little bit colder for the 3rd week of November. It's possible it could. Finally, CFS-V2 for December. These are 700 millibar height anomalies for December. CFS today is forecasting above average heights to be to our west, below average heights to our north-northeast. Generally, probably bringing in a reasonably mild westerly wind, but if we get enough amplification, we're almost there actually with the amplification in the Atlantic. If we was to get enough amplification, we could send the wind flow and jet stream on a northwest-southeast alignment, could set it up northwest to southeast, which might at the very least allow some cold snaps. It's not a classic cold month because we haven't got any northern blocking. But if we get that high pressure just far enough north to Greenland, it might produce some colder snaps from the northwest. Temperature anomalies for December, slightly above average, not really suggesting a very mild month. So again, cold snap potential is possible. Precipitation anomalies, very close to average, but with high pressure just to our west, you'd probably expect quite a dryish sort of month, really. Right, so I think we'll worry about them when we get to it. I think what we're going to focus on is like the next week, 2 to 3. So definitely next week is looking mild, probably quite mild after that. So if you want cold weather, I think you're going to have to wait until later in November. And we may then start to pull in something colder from the east. But definitely like the next, because southerlies can very quickly turn to easterlies. So we may start pulling something a little bit colder from the east later in the month. But definitely like the next couple of weeks, I think, certainly next week, 10 days, looking mild with winds in from the south. Of course, if we get towards late November into December, we might start to get a pattern change then, something colder. We shall have to wait and see. Right, okay, so that's it for video number 2. We're going to be back later on with the ECMWF 42-day forecast, looking at the weather for the next 6 weeks. Takes us right way up towards Christmas with that one. And then we're going to have a live stream at 10 o'clock tonight. We'll be live streaming the GFS 18Z, aka the pub run. And we'll have a laugh and we'll see how we're all doing on Friday night when we're in lockdowns and curfews and all of that sort of stuff. So yes, that will be after 10 o'clock tonight. For this video though, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.